That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about I.S.S., the sixth film, third narrative feature directed by Gabriela Cowperthwaite, which was premiered at the 2023 Tribeca Film Festival. It is being released courtesy of Bleecker Street on January 19th, 2024.
Do we know any of Gabriela's other movies?
Yes, you are familiar with her documentary Blackfish, which I think is excellent.
Yes.
For her narrative films, the only other one I've seen is Our Friend with Jason Segel and Dakota Johnson, which I really didn't care for.
This movie, tensions flare in the near future aboard the International Space Station as a conflict breaks out on Earth. Reeling, the U.S. and Russian astronauts receive orders from the ground. Take control of the station by any means necessary. What's your pull quote?
A novel idea about a Cold War microcosm suddenly turned hot. I.S.S. somehow squanders its potential tensions and feels a bit lost in space.
Oh, my pull quote's as simple as I thought this movie was. I.S.S. feels a little too basic to be memorable, but it's still worth a watch. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the premise I read is the movie. We have 3 Russian astronauts, 3 American astronauts aboard this space station. They get the orders to take over. All of them die except one from each side, and then those 2 take their shuttle back down to Earth, even though Earth is visibly on fire.
It seems to be on fire. I think the title for this movie could be Leave the World Behind.
Yeah, actually.
It says they're on the Soyuz rocket, which is a Russian word that means union.
Oh. So I think, well, that's actually relevant to what I was about to say. I feel like the reason I'm calling it basic is it just feels like everything is handed to us right away. As soon as, because Ariana DeBose plays an American astronaut and she's new to the space station.
Dr. Kira Foster.
And as soon as she gets on, she meets the Russian female astronaut named Weronika.
Veronica. Mm-hmm.
And
Mashkova.
She tells her something in Russian, which means the important thing is that we stick together. Mm-hmm. So it's like, okay, I know where this is going. Then Ariana's boss, played by Chris
Messina,
who I liked. Mm-hmm, yeah. I liked everyone, actually. He tells her, like, you hear that humming? That means that's like the life support. And if you don't hear it, you need to panic. So then it's like, okay, so we know the life support is going to go down.
Guess what's going to happen? Mm-hmm.
Then we get a lot of, like, just everyone kind of like side-eyeing each other, like we don't trust these people, and this is before anything happens. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, because they're giving Ariana the tour, and then they say, "Oh, come look at the like the big window that looks out to Earth." And so they all go up there, and her reaction is not what they expect because they're calling it the overview effect, mm-hmm. which is when people see this view of Earth from a distance. They're overwhelmed with this idea of like there not being any borders. So it's like a spiritual awakening. But Ariana's character she seems very unimpressed by it. Mm-hmm. So then I thought, okay, this is all very leading. And that's why I think it feels basic. Also, the score is doing a lot of the job.
By Anne Nikita.
It's effective.
It's doing a lot of the job, yes. Mm-hmm. Well, because it feels like an indie chamber piece that actually looks pretty decent for being set in space.
Yeah, I liked how it looked. There's a scene early on where they're getting to know each other, and we can see that they're having little misunderstandings. Like it's a little tense, maybe because of cultural differences and communication barriers, but they bust out some brown liquor to celebrate Ariana joining. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was cute because she's smart and knows how space works, but she forgets and opens the bottle. So little brown liquor pops out like these little bubbles, and then they start chomping at the bubbles. I thought that was cute.
Yeah, there are some decent moments, but at the point, it just kind of loses its sense of tension. When they both get the messages that basically say "screw expendable" like an alien.
Well, let's talk about the messages because it appears that each team has their own little section mm-hmm. where they all sort of congregate and work, and all of their laptops are visible to everyone. And then each of the leaders of the respective teams get like a confidential message that is just right up on the screen mm-hmm. for everyone to see. So I thought that was interesting.
Well, and also there's another monitor that's telling everyone that a transmission is going to come in.
That too, like you can see that someone's receiving information and no one's questioning like, what did you get? What did you get? Because they both got the same message, which I also thought was odd. So, because it almost feels like they're both working from a central command center, which is not explained. Because the way everything's set up, you would think that on the ground, Russia and America work at one place. But, I mean, maybe they don't. I don't know.
But also what doesn't make sense is we don't know who the aggressor is. I think based on some details, I think we both thought, it probably seemed like Russia bombed the U.S. But whoever was the aggressor would have sent an earlier message, right, to their I.S.S. team to be like, hey, look, things are about to heat up down here.
I don't mind that it's vague about what's happening on Earth, but I agree. It's like, then in that case, I feel like it's odd that someone didn't find out something sooner than the other. So it all just feels very convenient. A
little too convenient, yeah. So then Chris Messina, Gordon, has to go outside of the space station to fiddle with an antenna, and he's having a conversation with Ariana DeBose on comms, and Pilou Asbæk, the Danish actor who's part of the Russian team, snips some cords so they can't communicate, and suddenly Chris Messina's adrift outside.
Which was confusing to me because we see him tethered to the space station, but then because one of the Russians uses like a mechanical arm to knock Chris Messina off, like to die in space. And then we see that he's no longer tethered. So I was confused by that. Yeah.
But then, of course, a subplot is he's been fraternizing with Weronika, and they are hot and heavy about each other. So she loses it when she sees what happens and finds out from her team what's going on. And she tries to form an alliance with Ariana DeBose, who initially is on board with it.
But then she thinks she's being tricked. Another plot point that confused me is Nika tells Ariana's character that we're working on something called Node Zero, which is like an antidote to radiation poisoning. And I think that based on what we see happening on Earth, which like we don't know what's happening, it just looks like, I mean, these explosions are so big they can be seen from space. So I'm assuming they think it's like nuclear war. But she tells Ariana, I want you to take this Node Zero antidote back down to Earth because, like, that could save people. That just seems so crazy. That was as crazy as...
Ethan Hawke demanding the medication from Kevin Bacon and leave the world behind for his kid whose teeth are falling out. It's like, we don't know what's wrong with him.
We don't know what's going on. And then you're going to tell this lady to just evacuate. Also, we see that the shuttle, like the evacuation shuttle, can hold more than one person because two people leave at the end. So I don't know why Nika was so quick to say, just you go. I thought that was weird.
But then that is sabotaged ultimately by the other new member on the American team, Christian, played by John Gallagher Jr., who is just, he's very eager to get back to his daughters.
I couldn't stand that character.
We hear a lot about the daughters. He was very unlikable.
I didn't need him saying he wanted to get back to his daughters. It just feels like everything's so leading. Like he's really motivated to get back, so he's going to do whatever he has to do. The scene that drove me the most crazy is once Ariana discovers that Christian is planning on, because he lies to Ariana and says, there's no Node Zero. Nika's like set you up. But in fact, Christian is lying. He took the Node Zero, and we see in his little cabin bunk that he took the evacuation suit. So clearly he's planning on leaving. So Ariana knows this. And then she goes into like the common work area. And now there are just the three of them left. One of the Russians and then Ariana and Christian. And he's making a sandwich with a tortilla, mustard, and sriracha. That's what's in this sandwich.
And she's like, I want to make a sandwich too, because he's got a knife by
Oh my God. I mean, I almost felt like I was taking crazy pills because I'm like, am I seeing like... that was just the most clunky, awkward scene. Because he has this big knife and she's already seen that he's willing to do whatever to get back home. And she just walks up to him like, it's like when you see like a little creature walk up to like an alligator thinking that it wants to play. And then ultimately they get into a fight, like the three of them. But yeah, the way that was handled was so weird. I really didn't like the Christian character.
No, and then she's also monitoring these mice that are floating in their little cage, suspended, which made me think of how they're eating and pooping.
Also, I was confused by the mice because when she first gets on the spaceship, she's working next to one of the Russian doctors, and he tells her, "Oh, that research you're doing, I already did that, and it didn't work." So then she takes offense to it, like, "Well, damn, can I do my own research?" And then we see him looking at her mice, and it looks like he's going to do something with them, but we don't see anything. He's just kind of being nosy. And then we cut to, she goes back to check on her mice, and like two of the four have been injured. So are we supposed to think that he sabotaged her work?
I think that's the paranoia we're supposed to feed into there, yeah.
I guess I didn't like that it's set, but like before this war between Russia and America is happening on Earth, we're already establishing that there's tension between these
cultures.
Right. And I almost wish it would have been the opposite, that they're all really working together because they're scientists and they're thinking about science and not nationality and then when this thing breaks out, we see people's true colors.
Or I wanted it to get to a moment where the surviving members are like, well, we're going to stick together despite being from opposing countries at war, and we're going to wait to see what happens. Kind of like that Stanley Kramer film On the Beach with Gregory Peck and Ava Gardner, where they're in Australia and they're waiting for the nuclear radiation to hit. So everybody's just kind of going through their own existential crisis. I think that would have been more interesting.
Yeah.
Because all 6 of these characters, I think, are really thinly drawn. And, you know, for DeBose, who this is a post-Oscar role, I don't know. I think I was expecting a larger presence from her. And instead, I was focused on how her hair looked like Miguel.
Yeah, I wasn't going to comment on her hair because what I was thinking as I was watching her, she has kind of an elaborate hairstyle for
space.
For space. Like, where are you pressing this hair? And what, like, you would think she'd have something a little less complicated. But yeah, I agree. Seeing them working together, because we find out that there isn't enough boost in the station or something to keep it from getting too close to Earth, and so they're waiting for a transmission or something to give them additional boost. I wasn't sure how that worked, but because internet transmission went down for a period, they're trying to figure out what to do. And then all of a sudden they get their comms back or something, and then it says like, oh, it's reboosting, so now I guess they're not peering towards Earth. So then what you just said is like, I don't understand why they were so quick to get off the space station. Because throughout the entire film, once we see that war has broken out, I thought this was handled very well. That oftentimes in the background, we see Earth on fire, which was very unnerving, very well done. But when the film ended with the 2 remaining astronauts, you know, going back down to Earth, I just kept thinking, why would you want to go back right now?
Well, I think Asbæk even...
He says, where are we going?
Where are we going? I don't know.
And Ariana says, I don't know.
Okay.
Okay.
Maybe we should have thought about that.
It sounds like I'm super negative about this movie, but I did think it was shot very well. I thought the acting from everyone was fine.
Yeah, it just felt fine. I think I was more excited based on the description because it sounded kind of juicy, and it's a little dry.
Yeah. What would you give I.S.S?
2.5.
I would give this film 2.5 out of 5. Join us on Patreon and listen to our podcast. Bye.